Quiet! I can't. Everything is a conspiracy theory.
I protest!
Harry!
I protest!
Harry, you put your name in that Goblet of Fire.
No, sir.
Well, hello, Mora guys, and welcome to another year at Hogwarts. That's right, we're going through all the Harry Potter movies, and we're looking into each individual movie with its pop culture impact, its history, and its spot in the franchise. And with the new TV series announced by HBO, I figured it's time that we look into year 4 of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Now, before we get started, guys, if you do like videos like this, don't forget to hit that notification button. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you're just joining us now, feel free to click here for our previous videos. And with that being said, and with spoilers ahead, let's get into the video. So, guess what Warner Brothers had to do again? That's right, find another bloody director for a Harry Potter movie. Hell, Warner Brothers, get your shit together. So Alfonso Cuarón was focused on making The Prisoner of Azkaban and finishing the film, but Warner Brothers were very eager to make the next one. But unfortunately for Warner Brothers, Alfonso was unavailable as he was focused on the post-production for Prisoner of Azkaban. Now, Chris Columbus was still the producer and was thinking about coming back to direct, but he was still wanting to spend time with his family, and he already lived in the UK for about 2 years working on the first 2 Harry Potter films. M. Night Shyamalan was approached again to direct the film. God, they really wanted M. Night Shyamalan to direct a Harry Potter movie, didn't they? But he was more interested in doing a film adaptation of Life of Pi, which ended up being directed by Ang Lee in 2012. But the studio decided to pick British film director Mike Newell, who was approached to direct the first Harry Potter film, who has made films like Mona Lisa's Smile, 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and Donnie Brasco. Producer David Heyman has made a statement that they needed someone who could carry the next film to follow in the footsteps of Chris Columbus and Alfonso Cuarón, and they thought that Mike Newell ticked all the boxes and was perfect for the job. Now, while the studio did get Mike Newell pretty easily, there was a list of challenges that not only the director had to go through, but also the producers and the studios. Work on the script began in April of 2003, but there was just one tiny problem. The Goblet of Fire book was 636 pages long. So yeah, that's a bloody big book. But one solution that could work was to split the whole story into 2 movies to get everything they could from the book. I mean, at least the reason isn't to try and drain more money out of us wizard-loving nerds out there. But the problem with splitting the book into 2 movies was that there wasn't a real way to find a middle point with the story for the movie, and Warner Brothers didn't believe in the idea of splitting the movie. So that idea was scrapped, even though they decided to split the Deathly Hallows into 2 movies. You greedy bastards! The costume designers did return from the previous movie to keep the inspired costume designs for the students and teachers, but however, there was a big focus on the other Wizarding School costumes. For the Beauxbatons, the uniforms were made out of a French blue silk, while the Durmstrang uniforms were made of thick wool with crimson robes and fur hats and capes, which was inspired by Russian folklore. Fun fact, Michael Gambit, who played Dumbledore, actually wore his street clothes under his robes and hid his cigarettes in his socks. Probably explains why he's so cranky in the Goblet of Fire, Dumbledore trying to punch darts and having Hogwarts students asking him Voldemort questions. And even designing around 300 costumes for the students for the Yule Ball scene, which Hermione's one took about 3 months to make. Poor Ron, either his costume was just thrown together in 2 days or was a spare costume from that weird crackhead Wizard of Oz movie from 1985. Set designers also returned from the previous films, but they were tasked to redesign the Great Hall sets multiple times, including the Goblet of Fire scenes and the Yule Ball scenes, which they had to look like it was covered in ice, just like the way the book described it. Along with the food as well, just like they did in the previous films, because after the first movie, all the food that was real got spoiled and stunk up the set. I wonder if any of the cast members tells the newcomers that the food's real, only for them to grab the concrete one and tell them they got pranked by the prank patrol. The set designers were also tasked to build the sets for the 3 Triwizard tasks. The first task being the biggest set that the designers have ever done. I mean, it's basically a fake arena to house thousands of extras for a fake dragon event against a fictional character. But they did make a life-size scale of the dragon that actually breathes fire, which they basically borrowed the model of the Basilisk from the Chamber of Secret with just a new skin. Like changing a Call of Duty skin, isn't it? The second task being a giant water tank with blue screen, which was about 20 feet deep by 60 feet square, which made it the largest water tank film set in Europe, holding around 500,000 litres of water. The filming of those scenes had divers in it as well, just to give the actors some air without having to resurface. Which, after training, Daniel Radcliffe managed to stay underwater and log a time of totaling about 41 hours and 38 minutes. Which Daniel Radcliffe suffered 2 ear infections and almost drowned at one point thanks to the underwater scenes. And as for the final task, it was basically a maze hedge wall which ranged from about 20 to 40 feet tall and was pretty much enhanced with CGI. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, as for music, John Williams didn't return for The Goblet of Fire, as Prisoner of Azkaban was his last Harry Potter film, so Patrick Doyle was brought on board as the composer who had worked with Mike Newell before on the film Donnie Brasco. The only John Williams score that was used for the rest of the films was Hedwig's theme. Once Doyle was brought on board, he also brought in other British musicians such as Johnny Greenwood and Philip Sewell from Radiohead, who were also picked in the fictional band, both performing songs for the track and having cameo roles in the film. And with everything ready, filming began just like in the previous films in the UK areas. Now, just like with the previous Harry Potter movies, there were more characters that were going to be joining the Harry Potter family, but also there was one particular one which we'll talk about later in the video. With the Wizarding World getting more expanded, new characters are going to be introduced. We'll start with the Triwizard Champions. We get Clemence Poisey playing the Beauxbatons champion Fleur Delacour. Stanislav Majewski portrays Dunstrank champion and Quidditch star Victor Crumb, who only has 2 lines in the film by the way, and Robert Pattinson as Cedric Diggory, who must have had some plastic surgery after his Quidditch accident, which Superman himself Henry Cavill auditioned for, but Robert Pattinson landed the role. And as a bonus fact, Henry Cavill was Stephenie Meyer's first choice as Edward in the Twilight films, which also went to Robert Pattinson. Hell, Henry, what did you do to piss off Robert Pattinson? Probably auditioned for Superman but became Batman just out of spite. We even get more colourful characters in the expanding Wizarding World, like Miranda Richardson playing the Daily Prophet reporter Rita Skeeter, a character which was offered to Rosamund Pike, who turned it down because it felt like a small role, but she did later regret turning it down. We also get Barty Crouch Sr. played by Roger Lloyd Pack, who's another government official in the Wizarding World, along with Barty Crouch Jr. played by David Tennant, who differs from his book counterpart, and what is that? What are you doing, David Tennant? And we get Brendan Gleeson as Alistair Mad Eye Moody, to which Gleeson referred to Moody as a gunslinger with a wand. That's pretty badass. And along with our regular faces from the last 3 Harry Potter films, everything was ready to go. And with a release date of November 18th, 2005, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire was brought to the big screen. But how did the movie translate from the book to the movie? Well, as we progress through the Harry Potter films, just like the previous 3 films, more and more things are going to get cut from the books. And keep in mind too, normally it's due to pacing reasons. Like I said before, the book is over 600 pages long, but the only way to translate the book to film was to make it written as a thriller, and Mike Newell used films like North by Northwest, The Parallax View, and 3 Days of the Corner as inspiration. Now, while the idea did work for the final product, we did get some information that was sacrificed to the cutting room floor. Like, for example, in the book, this is the first time we meet Bill and Charlie Weasley, who came to the Quidditch World Cup, and Bill shows up later on along with Molly Weasley, who isn't even in the film, to support Harry in the 3rd task, and Charlie is seen bringing the dragons for the 1st task. Where in the film, Bill doesn't appear in the films until the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2, who is played by Donald Gleeson, Brendan Gleeson's son, and only Charlie is name dropped about the dragons, and we never see Charlie at all in any of the movies. The only time we do see Charlie is in the Daily Prophet photo with the Weasley family in The Prisoner of Azkaban. Ludo Bagman is also cut from the film, who is the head of magical games and sports, who also has a gambling problem where there's a subplot of the Weasley twins, Fred and George, being conned out of their savings thanks to Ludo Bagman. And we are missing Winky the house elf, who is accused of conjuring the Dark Mark, and is Barty Crouch's house elf, who ends up working at Hogwarts in the kitchens, which another subplot gets cut where Hermione starts her campaign of Spew, SPEW, or the Society Promotion of Elfish Welfare. But it's not just characters from the books that we've never seen before that get cut, even some characters don't even return when they are featured in the Goblet of Fire book. Like I said in the Philosopher's Stone episode, characters either get cut or don't return in future movies when their book counterparts do. I did mention before that Molly Weasley doesn't appear in the movie when she does appear in the book. But with Winky being absent from the movie entirely, that leaves us not being able to see Dobby again, who appears in the Goblet of Fire book. Now, Dobby does return in the Deathly Hallows Part 1 later in the series, but Dobby in the books, on the other hand, is the one to help Harry get the Gillyweed for the 2nd task and not Neville Longbottom. Dobby also returns information about Winky, which they needed to get information about Barty Crouch's strange behaviour. The Dursleys were supposed to be in the film, just like in the book, but ended up getting cut. But that was because the actor and actress who played Vernon and Petunia Dursley demanded more money, so they ended up getting cut and not appearing until Order of the Phoenix. Even Sirius Black has multiple chapters, including one chapter where the trio visit him at a nearby cave to answer questions about the Triwizard Tournament and talk about anything strange at Hogwarts. Where in the movie we only get a brief cameo of the fireplace chat that was in the book. Thanks to the other characters that get cut from the film, this just leaves no room for the subplots that are in the book. I've already mentioned the Ludo Bagman and Weasley twins subplot, but with Hermione and her SPEW campaign, this leaves out an area that we don't get to see at Hogwarts, and that's the kitchens where the house elves work. Which does explain how Dumbledore magically makes food appear at the tables when it turns out he just teleports it. There's even extra details in the scene where Harry looks into the pensive at Dumbledore's office, where not only we get to see the trial of Karkaroff, but we see a trial of Ludo Bagman, and we get a trial of 4 other Death Eaters, which include not only Barty Crouch Jr. crying his eyes out and begging, but this actually is the first time we see Bellatrix Lestrange, who is part of the trial, but we don't see her character until the next movie. This information also leaves out more weight about Neville Longbottom's backstory with his parents, where it is only briefly mentioned by Karkaroff in the movie and you kind of miss it, but we'll touch on Neville in the next video. Now that we covered all that, what about the positives and negatives of the movie? Well, definitely a negative, especially for the ones that have read the books. Not only does stuff get cut out from the movie, but the ones that do make it onto the screen get changed around. Like for example, the starters of the Quidditch World Cup. Everything was building up. We were getting ready to watch it. Everything was getting exciting, and then cut straight to the group in the tent and the Death Eaters attacking. Sorry, what? That's right, in the books you actually get to see the Quidditch match, where in the movie they were just building it all up and they just straight cut it. And even the 3 tasks get changed around too. Like the first task, the dragon breaks its chain off and chases Harry Potter around Hogwarts in the movie, where this doesn't happen in the book because the rules in the book, if something like that happens, the task would have been immediately stopped. Wait, so you're telling me you cut the entire Quidditch World Cup scene due to time and pacing reasons, but you had room to have Harry Potter get chased by a dragon for 10 minutes, which doesn't happen in the book. Okay, who used the dragons are cooler than Quidditch excuse during the script writing? I mean, the second task is probably the most accurate out of the 3 with only minor changes, so I can't really complain about that one too much. As for the third task, the giant maze in the movie appears to be alive and is a little scary. But in the book, the maze has creatures and obstacles in it, like boggarts, blast-ended scroots, which were from Hagrid's Care of Magical Creatures lesson, which was also cut, and a sphinx in the maze, which tells Harry a riddle to get past, and the maze was never alive in the book. Also, the maze is only in the Quidditch pitch, where in the movie, it's massive. So this is the least accurate out of the 3 tasks. Even the little things like how Barty Crouch was found is different between the book and the movie, along with Karkaroff and Snape arguing with each other like a bunch of 5-year-olds gets cut from the movie. And we only get one short scene of this, but we did get a deleted scene in the bonus features in the DVD and Blu-ray. And definitely our final negative is Professor Dumbledore's sudden mood swings from the Prisoner of Azkaban to the Goblet of Fire.
Harry Potter!
Now, in the last movie, there have been a few times where Dumbledore is a bit loud, but he still had that calm and laid-back tone like he does in the book, where in the Goblet of Fire, he's running around like somebody just spoiled the ending of one of the Avengers movies.
Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
No, sir.
Now, keep in mind, he does act like this when he catches Mad Eye with Harry Potter alone at the end of the book, but he's not screaming and yelling at everyone throughout the whole book, unlike his movie counterpart. And look, after watching the movies and reading the books, I can see why HBO decided to make a faithful adaptation of the Harry Potter books. Like, you're just very limited when it comes to adapting books to movies. But what about the positives? Well, the thing that still keeps going is the expansion of the Wizarding World. Like the introduction of the Quidditch World Cup. Probably the closest thing we would have had to the real thing was the 2003 Quidditch World Cup game, but at least you get a Quidditch World Cup game out of it. And speaking of the Quidditch World Cup, we get the introduction of the Death Eaters, showing us other bad and evil wizards in the Wizarding World and are a cult-like group who follow Lord Voldemort. And yes, the film did get backlash for accidentally making the Death Eaters resemble KKK members, which they had to change for the next film. And we get new magical events, items, and spells, like the Tri-Wizard Tournament, Gillyweed, which gives herbology room to play, Port Keys, which can transport witches and wizards to other locations, and the 3 unforgivable curses, which we find out that one of them, Harry Potter, survived when Voldemort tried to kill him using the Killing Curse. And the introduction of other magical schools like the Beauxbatons Academy and Durmstrang. I swear, Durmstrang just reminds me of that little brother who just discovered breakdancing and has to show it off to the family at Christmas. Another positive is definitely the focus on the whole story of Harry Potter being forced to participate in the Tri-Wizard Tournament. And just like every other Harry Potter movie, we get the whole who, what, when, where, and why questions that you get in the Harry Potter films. I mean, it's not a perfect focus and could have been done better, but it does work for the film. Even with this being the 4th film, this is where we start to see the actors and actresses who have been with us since the start get better with their performances. Now, some people have been either positive or negative about the performances of the kids in The Prisoner of Azkaban, but in The Goblet of Fire is definitely where you start to see scenes where you're like, oh that's actually some serious acting there. But the biggest positive is the last 30 minutes of the movie, where after Harry and Cedric grab the cup, we get the twist that Harry Potter in the Triwizard Tournament was a trap the whole time to bring back Lord Voldemort. And this, I feel, is one of the greatest moments in the Harry Potter films, as not only we get the shocking moments like Cedric being murdered and his dead body displayed with everyone to see at Hogwarts, Lucius Malfoy is a Death Eater, oh hello Peter, Barty Crouch Jr. was Mad-Eye Moody the whole time while he had the real Mad-Eye locked away in the whole school year. And of course, one of the biggest reveals of Lord Voldemort returning in the flesh, played by Ralph Fiennes, joining the Harry Potter family. This is what makes this moment so memorable, is that this is the 4th film and 4th book in the series, and we've only seen Voldemort in various ways, like on the back of somebody's head, as a memory from a cursed diary, and only name dropped. But this is the first time we actually see proper Lord Voldemort, and with the great performance by Ralph Fiennes, even though he only has 10 to 15 minutes of screen time, his presence shows us why he is the most feared Dark Wizard of all time. And with the behind the scenes, nobody actually knew what Voldemort was going to look like until after the VFX were done and were only going off concept art. And even Ralph Fiennes' casting was kept secret from the public, so it was a surprise for every moviegoer. Unless if little Jimmy from primary school told you, the little shit. Even adding the detail where they flip the whole Voldemort can't touch Harry because of the magic of love, that was mentioned in the Philosopher's Stone, where in the Goblet of Fire, now Voldemort can touch Harry and it will cause Harry Potter pain.
I can touch you now.
But now that we covered as much as we can, what about the overall story that we got in the movie? Well, the story focuses on the trio returning for their 4th year at Hogwarts, where Harry is chosen by the Goblet of Fire to compete in the Triwizard Tournament, and the mystery of why he is in the tournament and Harry having to survive 3 dangerous tasks. Now, this film is the first in the series to have a mature rating with dark themes and violence, and after The Prisoner of Azkaban, Goblet of Fire also got the IMAX treatment along with the remainder of the films. And lastly, what did fans and critics think of the overall movie that we got, and how did it go with the box office and merchandise and marketing? Well, critics definitely think it's a solid Harry Potter film with a Rotten Tomatoes score of 88%, but with fans slightly mixed with a score of 74%. Now with the critics, while they are mostly positive with the film, the negatives from critics are that it did feel clunky and disjointed, and that other characters didn't get enough screen time, which The Order of Phoenix does make up for. But the fans' issues are mainly from a lot of stuff that has been left out from the book that didn't make it to the film, but there are some back and forths between Harry Potter fans on whether The Goblet of Fire or The Prisoner of Azkaban is the best Harry Potter film. And with Mike Newell as director, he did have a big task that was given to him on adapting a very long book to the big screen and keeping as much as he could in. And coming from the box office, with a budget of $150 million, the film made $896.8 million at the box office. Bit of a jump there with the budget. There was even a lawsuit involved with Warner Brothers and The Goblet of Fire. So you remember the band I mentioned earlier that was used in the Yule Ball scene? So they're called the Weird Sisters in the book, where there is actually a Canadian folk group called the Weird Sisters that were actually offered to get their name bought for permission to use in the film. But Warner Brothers and the Weird Sisters band couldn't come to an agreement, so they decided to scrap the deal, where the Weird Sisters tried to sue Warner Brothers for using their likeness and pretty much copying the band in the film, and tried to sue them for $40 million. Yeah, good luck with that one. But the lawsuit was eventually settled in March of 2010, where the details have been sealed. As for the marketing and merchandise, the first trailer was made available online on the 8th of May 2005, with the international trailers debuting online for the 23rd of August 2005. The video game Adaptation was released in November 2005, and spoiler alert, I've played this, and lower your expectations playing this thing.
Yeah! Follow those beams.
Collect the beans!
Mattel also released a line of action figures and artifacts based on the film. Among these was the first edition of Harry Potter's Seen It, containing over 1,000 questions involving the 4 films. The film was released on DVD in March of 2006. It was available in 1 and 2 disc editions, as well as being part of an 8-disc box set that included all 4 films at the time, the bonus disc featuring 3 interactive games, as well as 7 behind-the-scenes features. It also was released on the UMD format for the PSP. The film also holds the Guinness World Record for being the fastest selling DVD of all time, to which the achievement was added to the 2007 book edition of the Guinness World Records, which includes a picture of the award being presented to Daniel Radcliffe on the Order of the Phoenix set. Now, despite not having an Ultimate Edition not being included in any home media release, an extended version has been shown during televised airings and roughly 10 minutes of additional footage, which probably explains why there have been so many people freaking out about the extra scenes on social media lately. So despite the issues and stuffs that were cut out of the Goblet of Fire, it's still no doubt a beloved member of the Harry Potter franchise, which has probably caused so many arguments between Harry Potter fans. But with the events in the film all set and ready to go, there is another Harry Potter sequel that actually surprised a lot of fans. But that's all the time for we have today, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification button if you like more videos like this. Feel free to follow my socials down here as well. And as always, as I say at the end of these videos, I'm Azza the Pop Culture Viking. Always love pop culture, and don't forget to smile.
Miss Hoover, the movie's over.
Down in front.